see you all. Excited to spend a little bit of time today talking about engaging your crowdfunding on audience between campaigns. Really excited to have our panelists here and excited to have everyone in the room. So just so you know, my name is Joe Sawada. I'm the head of games at Backerkit. We won't talk about Backerkit today, but we help crowdfunding creators, have happy backers, have less stress after their campaign by managing a lot of the pieces that go into that. So with that being said, I'll actually hand it over to our panel here if you want to start kind of introducing yourself, who you are, where you're from.
Okay, my name's Maya. I'm the community manager and operations manager for Secret Hitler and Trogdor, the board game, and based in Chicago.
Hey, I'm James Hudson, Skybound Games and Druid City Games. We did Grimm and some of those other games you may have seen, and general just person.
Hello. General person?
Yeah, that's right.
My name is Marc Swanson, and I am with Oddbird Games, maker of Feudum.
I'm Isaac Childres, Gloomhaven, Cephalofair Games, maker of Gloomhaven, and Forge War and founders of Gloomhaven.
I'm Tammie Bryan with Monte Games. We do Numenera, The Strange, Sovereign System, Invisible Sun, and No Thank You Evil.
Cool. Well, thank you all for being here.
Yeah.
So today we're just going to spend a little bit of time letting everyone learn from their experience on crowdfunding, how they've engaged with backers, built that really excited community who are ready to be there and support them. So I thought we'd first start out with just a fun question. I'm curious, looking at like all the people you've spoken to, all the fan interactions you've had, whether they've been in person, they've been online, are there any that stand out as particularly memorable?
Well, I think obviously the easy ones are the really bad ones that just jump right to the front, but try to keep it positive, right? Like, there's always some really good ones where fans will come up at the shows and say, the game that you delivered, my family play it every night, or we play it once a week, or whatever, and it's become a staple in our family, which gives you, at least the reason I got into it initially was to really help engage families and have that fun time with your family and friends. Not one in particular, but just that general sense of when those come up, it's really awesome.
Yeah, I think not just the bad ones. Those stand out, but the good ones stand out too. For instance, Ravendus was like this guy who was in my first Gloomhaven Kickstarter. Like I still remember his handle, and he was just always there, always answering questions. The fact that you can, nobody was paying him, but he was there like full time, just being just. Really excited about the game and wanted to see it do well, and yeah, he was a great resource.
I do a lot of the back-end stuff, so I'm not a creator like some of you guys. So I get to interact a lot with the fans more on they open up to me a lot more, I think, sometimes. And one of the things that is really fascinating to me is when, because you guys are probably all creators too, is when, the product that you've made is what the person, it's what they got out of bed for that day. And that's so important. I don't think people actually always realize that writing is just so, it's so important to being human, right? And, we've had people come up to Monte and say, I was clinically depressed and, I had to seek treatment for that, but, your game helped me overcome some of that. So that's like, what do you say? That's powerful stuff.
I think the moments that always stick out to me the most are what I've been known to call as campaign crusaders, who are like the positive advocates for the campaign that end up like fighting back all of the trolls without which is really great because I'll just see them like saying all these mean things and like it sucks when you get mean comments, but like they're gonna happen because the mean people are always the loudest. They're like way in the populated minority of your backers, but they're the loudest and they're on it every day complaining all the time. But every once in a while, there's these people that like really love you and they want to support you, and they're like, hey, like Mean Guy 27, you're absolutely wrong. It's actually this. And we have this really great dude right now in the Trogdor Kickstarter. His name is Dan, and he is literally just going through and just ripping all the trolls to shreds. And I'm just like very happy about it because like when you come from such a small team and you work so hard on something, and then to just hear like 20 people constantly be like, well, this is terrible. It's like, really? Because like I'm one of 3 people and we're working really hard on it and we're trying to make everyone happy and we made this great game, and then you get this campaign crusaders who just like make it all worthwhile.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
What's really great is that they can say the things that you can't.
Exactly.
So it's like,
Yeah.
yes.
So that's exactly what I would have said. That's exactly how I would have said it, and I can't do that because I would get in so much trouble. So I'm really glad that you used that, so that I didn't have to.
Well said, Dan.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
You know, that brings up a point. The customer is always right. You know, they
Yeah.
can rip you to shreds, but you know, a kind word turns away wrath.
Yeah, right.
And I've had people that have just, you know, said so many inappropriate things to me, but they're shocked and surprised, and other backers are watching your response.
Mm-hmm.
They're shocked when you return their hatred with kindness and want to make it up to them in some way because you want them to have a positive experience. And then suddenly, all of a sudden, this angry person turns into a fan, and you convert them. And so it never pays to get angry with your fans. Just realize that, you know, maybe they don't have the same social skills that you do.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
But another thing that stood out was one fan wanted to know, he said to me, you know, I'm from Hawaii, and there's a problem sometimes with foil cards kind of warping a little bit. You know, he wanted to know the constitution of the card. And after you're in this business for a while, you know, well, it's a gray core matte linen finish, you know, it takes a Euro sleeve. And at first you think, good God, it's a foil card, don't worry about it warping, but you should care. You should care about the little details like that, and answer as many emails as detailed and as specifically as you can, because you're building a fan base.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, kind of going from that, when you talk about, or when you think about kind of more like how you reach out, how you engage, is there a way that you could at a high level sum up kind of what you think is most important? Or you said this is how I engage with people, this is how I engage with backers. Kind of how you would start that, or what you would, how you do it.
I mostly just try to be honest with people, but not telling them the entire process of the shipping. Not to the point where it's not customer facing, but I try to be transparent and honest about what's going on and what I plan to do to fix it, if I can even fix it. And if I can't, then I'll tell them that and I'll direct them to some resource that hopefully can help. But I feel the best thing you can do when you have any sort of conflict or just any question at all is to just be honest, because they're gonna catch you in the lie. And it's also just dumb. Yeah. So don't. They're taking a risk on you. That's the main difference between someone backing you on Kickstarter and someone just going in the store and buying your game or something, is that there is a level of risk that they also have that you have to fulfill. And so I feel just honesty and setting your expectations so you can meet them is the best thing that you could possibly do in terms of actually having a good interaction with a customer or a backer.
Yeah, setting correct expectations from the beginning is the key to the whole process. Yeah. If you're up front and you say these are the things that are going to happen, and these are the things that could happen. Mm-hmm. I am kind of set up for there could be mistakes, and here's where I think right now for Sorcerer City, we metal coins. We promised interlocking metal coins. So we made a design where they'll twist and they'll lock in, kind of right. And right now the design just goes, and so it's okay, that technically interlocks, but I don't want to deliver what I didn't intend, right? And I set up those expectations, but I'm also getting the process of communicating that, hey guys, we're working through the design process of here's where we're at right now. And we only have so much money to work with, right? So we can't, to make them really good in interlocking, sure, we can do that to double the cost, which that's not within the margins. Right. So just setting good expectations from the beginning can save you a world of backlash.
I'd also say, in addition to being honest, which I absolutely number one, always be honest with your backers is just being communicative, in the first place, constant communication. Yeah. Because no information is just as bad as false or bad information. Right. Your backers will always expect the worst. So if you're not telling them what's happening and what's going on, they're going to assume that there's a fire in the background and everything's burning.
And don't assume that they read the update. Just hit them up on social media.
In fact, just assume that they didn't read
exactly
the update.
Right. Yeah. Because everything you write there, which may be wonderfully constructed, is keep it short, right? Try to keep it so that attention spans are limited. I know I back a lot of Kickstarters, and I get all of these, and I'm what do I need to know? Okay, I'm good.
Right.
So,
yeah.
When you think about the concept of Kickstarter, or for that matter, any crowdfunding site, it's really the democratization of venture capital. Instead of having to go to a bank or a deep pocket angel investor, you have capital, you let someone pre-order your game and then use that money to manufacture it. So it's great. So you start to view backers as first pledgers, but really you should view them as what they are, and that is early adopters. They're willing to take a risk on you. And because of that, you should look at them as people that want to join with you on this journey. And the value add that they get is they feel part of your development. So early on, and a lot of people don't know this about Backerkit, and I'm not sure if this is a feature available on other crowdfunding sites like Indiegogo or GoFundMe, but with Kickstarter, you can actually make your Kickstarter page, your launch page, available for people to come in and kick the tires and give you feedback on your Kickstarter page for weeks, if not months, before you even launch. And that's so valuable because the more you let them into your development, the greater these early adopters feel about the brand, that they feel like they're part of the brand, and you want to be open source about that.
Thanks. So, like, kind of building on that, as far as what you are doing, is there anything that you first tried out, you thought backers would be really interested in, and just did not go how you expected it to, or did not really have kind of the impact or the effect that you thought it would?
I've always been perfect. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, I remember with the first Gloomhaven Kickstarter, there was just I don't know. There's just like this community in Kickstarter that's like just really into like exclusives and stuff like that. And it's just this really like vocal minority for the most part, or just these people who are like really loud about like, we're your early adopters, like give us something special.
Right.
But I went in and like they'd really gotten to me at some point, and I was like, okay, well I do want to, because I do want to know that these backers are special to me. So like, okay, yeah, maybe I will give you like some small exclusive thing. But I went to the backers and I was like, let's vote on this as best we could, just like in the comments, or like I think I even created a BGG poll. But I was like, if I gave you like this little miniature like as an extra thing that only you got, like is that something you'd want? And the majority, like pretty vast majority, was like, no, just like if that's gonna like increase costs or whatever, like don't do that. We don't need that. Like if it's not important to the gameplay. And so so for me it was just like not going down that exclusive route and just giving them a good product, and that's it. And
there's also part of like being a good business person and understanding your budget and what you can afford and how shipping factors into everything. And so if you've made a promise to deliver something, then you have to do it, right? So one of the Kickstarters we did, we were like, yeah, we can do that, and then you get to the end and we're like, oh, what did we say? So it can bite you if you're not very careful, because you want to make these people happy, right? They're the early adopters. They're the people who really love what you do, and so just don't overpromise. Just remember that you have a budget to work with.
If you've read Jamie Stagmeyer's Stonemaier blog, and if you haven't, you should, you'll find out that there are two types of backers out there. One type really, or I should say there are two paths that you can go down as a board game designer. You can have exclusives. Some people believe in that philosophy, a limited edition exclusive available only to backers. Now, you can back yourself into a corner because let's say it's so popular that you could have made some money off of that, selling that as an accessory in the future. But you can't, because if it's exclusive, it's exclusive. That's it. The limited print run, you're done. Or, as Jamie says, you can forego limited edition exclusive and call them promos and make it very, very clear to your backers that this will be available after the Kickstarter campaign for everybody or anybody that wants them. I am actually a believer in limited edition exclusives. There's just something really nice about something that's rare. But you have to be careful about that, especially if it's so popular that you don't kick yourself for not making a lot of them.
So, I wasn't saying like exclusives are bad. I think what I was trying to say, like very poorly, is to like stay on brand. Like these people were sort of pushing me away from a brand that I had already established, like with my first Kickstarter. You know, that's what I was doing was just just focusing on the gameplay, not adding like I don't want to say superfluous elements.
Right.
But yeah, like in that sense, like the thing that I was offering was like pretty superfluous. So yeah, it was just about like sticking to your brand, I guess.
It kind of ties back to what you were saying earlier about the trolls being the loudest.
Yeah.
Because they were demanding those exclusives, and then when you took it to a poll, it was actually like, no, we don't actually. The
Right,
majority
yeah,
of the people
they weren't familiar with my brand. They were just coming in like, oh, here's this thing. I want this thing, but I want it my way. But it's like, no, your way isn't the way that my audience wants it.
We experienced that with our Trogdor campaign as well, because like I feel like people, I mean, like Homestar Runner has been around for a very long time. But they do have some gaps in time there where they decided to, like, I don't know, be regular people and start families and stuff, which is cool. But there was a huge jump in the internet in the times when that happened. So there are a lot of people on Kickstarter who are just here for the game. Like, they just want the game. And so when we have stretch goals, they're like, well, we want, like, more additions to the game and, like, more exclusives and more blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And, like, we had planned to do all these great, like, video, like, backer-only video stretch goals because, like, Homestar Runner is a video brand. Like, we make videos that are funny and then you like them, and so we were like, well, what if we just do like stuff like just for the backers, like we'll do strong bad emails, but we'll like ask them from the backers and stuff, and like do some like super awesome like Kickstarter centric videos. And there were all these trolls that were like, I didn't come here for the videos. And it's like, well, then what did you come here for? Because that's our entire brand. Like, it's literally the whole website. And then there started to be some more people that were like, if you didn't come here for the videos, then like, dude, why are you here? Like, you've already gotten what you've got. Like, we've made so many great additions to the game. Spot UV, we've got a foil on the box. We've got like thicker tiles so they feel nice. Like, we've added more keeper cards that are made by Strong Bad so they look like shit. Like, we've been doing all these things, but it's like never enough for some people. It's never enough. And the thing that feels good at the end of the day is when we can do something that we feel happy about that feels very much like us.
Yeah.
And like that's one of the reasons why they hired me, was because they kept being like tossed around by all these people that were trying to convert Homestar Runner into like a game making factory, and like those guys aren't that. They just want to make content. Like they just love making Homestar Runner videos for people to enjoy. Since for the last 20 years, those dudes have just been making videos for people to like. And so it's like, well, why would you not want videos especially for you to like, you know? Like that's like a very hyper version of our brand. And once we just like focus on that, we're like, oh great, okay. Like even if there's like people that are mad in the corner or whatever, but like if we're doing exactly what we want to do and people are soaking that up in like a really positive way, then even if it felt like we did something that didn't quite work, it did work, like at the end of the day. So like that feels good.
I guess my example would be I have a higher level one, but I had a whole campaign that didn't go like I thought. Guardian's Call is a bluffing game, and I learned really quick that there's some boxes on Kickstarter that you really need to check, because the audience that's there, if you're not a brand that's bringing your own audience, and you're taking a specific game type to Kickstarter, there's certain games that audience just is not really engaged in, and a bluffing game is not one of those. And I had to learn that through trial and error, because I was like, we're going to make it look good. It's going to be high fantasy. It's going to be different than just like a party. It's going to have it's the gamers bluffing game. Oh, these are gamers on here. They're going to love it. And it did fine, like it funded, right? But it wasn't nearly as successful as I had expected it to be. And I didn't expect it to be a Grimm Forest, but it definitely fell short of what I expected. And so it was one of those things you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go back to my office now.
Right.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Cool. We've been talking a bunch here kind of about that back and forth, about feedback you're getting from backers. Is there, and talk a little bit, about collecting it online with polls or with sampling that way. What have you found that's most useful for, getting that feedback and then deciding what to do with it afterwards? Is there any kind of key principles or methods there?
Nope. Next question.
Well, your backers will reach you any way they can.
Okay.
Right? It will be in the comments.
All the ways.
It will be every way. It will be messages. It will be, emails through your contact us form if you have one. So it's really about managing the expectations of your responses, right? And letting everybody know if you are a small team or if you're a huge team, whatever your company culture is just making that known so that you're setting their expectations for where you respond, because we respond on Facebook, and there's a G+ group that's really active, and even though MCG as a whole, we're not really on G+ anymore, but we support those guys because we love them, and so we just try, we hit Twitter, we hit Instagram, you hit all of the social media that you can with that message, and they respond there. And so that's the thing, if you're gonna have a presence, you have to choose, like, this is where my presence is going to be, and I commit to going there and to responding to people. Or I'm going to say, yes, this post to Facebook, but I'm not going to respond there. People have to know what to expect.
Yeah, like I said, I'm working for Homestar Runner and Secret Hitler right now, and for both of those campaigns, I'm the only employee. Like, it's literally just me. It's the game creators, they make the game, and then they're like, all right, Maya, you got this. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, okay, like, what the fuck? But so, like, and, like, after a certain point, like, I have learned, like, what to do, and I sort of got this, but there's still, like, limitations that I have to have, and, like, sleep that I need, and food that I eat, so, I know, right? It's crazy. How dare I eat food? And so one of the things that I first did when we started the Homestar Runner campaign, like, the first Friday, at like 6 p.m. Central Time, I was like, cool, I'm getting offline. I'm not responding to any more of your comments. I'll be on the weekend from 12 to 5, and I'll be back during the week from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Central Time, period. And was just like, that's when I'll be here. Like, you can expect to not hear a response between those times, because, like, I am a person, I'm a singular person, and this is what I will be doing for you. And that actually is good. Like, you don't want to give them too much, because then when they're asking questions, they're like, whoa, Maya, stop commenting. What's going on? Why are the creators silent? What's going on? What are you doing? And it just becomes this cascade of, like, well, where are you? But, like, if sometimes you have to lay down the law, like, and it feels weird because you want to be, like, so carefree and, like, hey guys, what are we doing? But, like, you also need to realize that, like, you're a human being with limitations, and sometimes it's okay to tell them those limitations so that they don't keep trying to, like, beat a dead horse to get info.
And you set up good expectations by letting them know when you'll be
available.
Like,
so specifically.
It loops back to those expectations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially since I'm literally the everything. I'm the email, I'm the Facebook, I'm the Twitter, I'm the Kickstarter, like, and it's like you can't get around me, unfortunately. If you don't like me, that's a shame, because I'm everywhere. And so, but I have to be everywhere at a certain time. I cannot be everywhere.
Are those doors locked right
now? I know,
now?
right?
Yeah.
No, yeah. But yeah, so you just have to set those expectations and make sure you're not, like, overworking yourself, or else you'll go crazy. Like, you'll just go crazy.
I got one.
Yeah.
Panda did not pay me to say this, although you can after this. Not Panda, I'm sorry, Backerkit. Backerkit has this feature that's part of the survey that goes out, where they collect, they confirm your pledge and collect data on you, your address and whatnot. But you can also ask a question. Sure. And I thought, I'll use this tool. And I said, would anybody be interested in a solo variant? Because one of my backers had commented, hey, are you going to do a solo variant? And I was thinking, I don't even like solo variants. I don't necessarily want to do one. So I decided I would just throw it in there and see. Well, to my surprise, over 25% of my backers responded to the survey and said, yes, we want this solo variant. Well, all of a sudden, it was the impetus for creating the Queen's Army. And I'm grateful, because that campaign was my second campaign that did well. And so polling your backers and gaining that data is invaluable.
Yeah. Polling is really helpful, just like in general. Like, when you think you know what they want, and you can just be like, well, do you want it? And then they'll tell you.
Right.
Right.
Instead of you having to, like, look at because the comments are so skewed. Like, you should still look at the comments to see, like, more or less what they're talking about, but they're incredibly skewed. Like, that's not the majority of the community. So, like, polls are a lot more helpful to get more people involved into it. Not that, like, every week you should do a poll, but, like, if you're really, like, backed up into a corner and you don't know what to do, a poll is helpful to get more voices in.
The majority of backers, I don't think even know the comment section's there.
No, I think lots of people are just like, I want it, and then they just leave.
And then they're out. Yeah, like, and that can work positively or negatively against you. There was the campaign that got pulled down recently because it had some plagiarism and some other things going on.
Oh, right.
And it was a wildfire in the comments, but there was plenty of backers that had no clue that these things were even going on, because they backed it and forgot it. And so, yeah, don't assume that all backers are in the comments.
Yeah.
One of the things that we talk about is the 99 and 1 rule. 90% of your backers will back your game and never make a comment, ever, good or bad.
Thank God.
9% have opinions, but don't really, they may say something every once in a while, and 1% are the loudest, whether it's good or bad. And so you can't let the 1%ers sway anything that you do. Great story on my end. My first campaign, Barnyard Roundup, I listened to the 1%ers, and I have a big stupid box now on my Barnyard Roundup game because we have to have sleeves. The box has to have sleeves. It's got to fit sleeves. People that sleeve their cards aren't as many as that 90%.
They're so loud. They're the loudest ones.
And so now when you take that box and you rattle it, the cards inside are just like blah, 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 flopping around because if you put sleeves on them, it fits perfect.
It's like a whole panel in and of itself.
It's going to be okay.
Backers that want sleeved cards is a whole panel in and of itself.
So now all of my solutions, though, we're working on the inserts fit sleeved and non-sleeves. I'm sorry if I offended you if you sleeve cards because you guys are passionate about sleeving those cards.
Raise your hand if you sleeve cards.
Do you sleeve cards? See, they're back. Look, he's back there shaking his head. He's like, dirt bag. He got a dirt bag. Never buying Druid City games.
You don't have to sleeve them. We make them nice.
We make them nice.
Well, so from that, you had mentioned, putting that survey question in, and that you found something that you didn't expect to appeal to fans, but did have that huge appeal. Any other good stories about things that you tried or you did that had kind of that bigger impact of that, like out of nowhere, like
Well, there was this one fan, and you have to read your comment section. You have to read the comments on the updates, and there's so many little pockets of places you have to go to. Your Facebook messages, your Board Game Geek messages. I mean, there's lots of little repositories of information. But if you're good about doing that, you find out little hidden gem type opportunities. One of my fans created his own custom plastic vessels that he hand painted, and he started selling them without my permission, without licensing or whatever. I didn't come down on him. He was a super backer. He meant well, and instead I reached out to him and I said, I really love these core concepts. Do you mind if my artist kind of takes a look at this and kind of redesigns it a little bit, and we mass market these, and I'll pay you a fee for this. He was just ecstatic, and so. Mining your comments and all the comments for potential opportunities is important.
Yeah, Grimm has a dice in the game because the 2-player variant is you would take one of the other player's cards and you'd flip out one of the locations, and we would remove half the resources from that location. And one of the backers was like, "Why don't you make that a dice? It's way easier than fumbling around with cards every round, And I was like, why don't we make that a dice? That's a great idea. So now it has a dice.
Raise your hand if you say die singular. I think I'm the only one. Die?
Get out of here, college
Oh
professor.
no! Look how many hands.
All you people just judging. I'm from Alabama. We're 49
No,
education.
it's actually grammatically correct to say dice. It is.
For one?
Oh, is it?
It is.
I was right.
For a single die. Yeah, it changed recently.
What?
Yeah.
You
can't change
that?
No, words change. Colloquially, words change.
Yeah.
It's acceptable. Like if you look at AP
it's not.
style,
Not okay.
yes, it's acceptable.
Now I'm really confused. I don't know what to say. So. We have one of those little square things that you roll, and it says stuff. I'm going to avoid it now.
But yeah, backers are your number one resource.
Yeah.
There's, I don't know, so many times that, and like I actively, look for it, and I actively ask them, for ideas on like stretch goals or, try to involve your backers in whatever way you can during your campaign, because that's just going to increase their sense of ownership over this product. And
you have to quit your job for 30 days, though.
Exactly.
You really
do.
Like it takes a lot of a campaign is just it's a lot, and you have to give it pretty much all of it. Like when I say that I work 12 to 5 on weekends and 9 to 6 during the week, that's every day for 30 days. Like I haven't had a day off since July 17th, and I'm currently answering backer emails right now because like I said, I'm the only one, and I can't not do that. But it's a lot.
15,000 backers.
We do, we have 15,340 backers.
Killing it.
I'm so excited.
But yeah, it's a 30-day commitment. Like a Kickstarter is, it's like a year-long commitment. But like the campaign is as long as it says it is, and you have to be doing things for all of those days. You don't get to like chill for like 4 days and be like, I'm going to Morocco.
And if you think, hey, we'll just do a 10-day campaign, that'll make it better.
No.
I did that on Guardian's Call. Don't do that.
It just makes all of it into, it's like the weekend. It's why the mall is
so
more
bad.
crowded on the weekend, because all the people are there. If you make a 10-day campaign, it's just like, hey, it's a 30-day campaign in 10 days.
Well, and the reason that you would, on paper, think that makes sense, right? You get 33% or so from the front end on the first 3 days and the back 3 days, and then there's the stuff in the middle. So you're like, I'll just cut out the middle. It'll come together, no big deal, right? Well, what you miss media cycles, you miss paydays for people. Yeah. There's a lot of unrecognized things that kind of check boxes there. And then you get backers who get upset, like, well, the campaign would have been doing better, which means we would have got more stretch goals. So now I don't feel like I've got as much game as I should get. So I think I'm going to back out. I mean, this thing starts snowballing quickly. Yeah. So I think at this point, 17 or 18 would probably be the minimum I would even consider. But I found our sweet spot is 24.
Yeah. Cool.
So we shoot for 24 just because we can hit a Tuesday to a Friday, and you hit 2 out of the 3 major paydays in that 24-day window.
Yeah.
Sorry, I ranted for a second.
That's okay.
And you can also, going back to what you're talking about with the trolls or whatever, like once you've turned that troll into a friendly face, right? You can harness all those people, right? And so we have an organization we call the asset team. And so if you have enough manpower, which perhaps I don't know if you guys do, but you can take that and you can make like a demo team, and then once you have the people who are out there in game stores demonstrating your games for you, you can also we activate them, and we go to them and we say, this is our message, and so these are our core volunteers. These are people who love us and we love them, and we give them special deals and special product that you can't get anywhere else, because we want to support them, because they in turn go out and they hit Reddit up and they're like, oh no, that's not right. This is actually what Monte Games is doing. And they go out to Twitter and they go out to Facebook, and they're like an army, and they're awesome. And you can empower them with your message, and then they will in turn spread it.
And I'd tell you also that you're not going to convert most trolls, but your response to the trolls or the very negative comments, it's not them that you're worried about. It's everybody else who's reading the comment that you respond with. Kind of going back to what Marc said earlier, you're going to pull everybody in there and think, wow, they had every right to probably tell that person to go fly a kite, and they killed him with kindness. And so it's hard to do sometimes, though. You're just like,
yeah, it's right.
I'm like Kermit the Frog on that meme.
Oh my God, nice. Yeah.
And then you're like, delete. Yeah. Sometimes it feels good to just write it all out and then delete.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so and as far as kind of like where you have been reaching backers, where you have been engaging them, when you first started doing this or started, making this outreach, is there any place that you wish you had known about beforehand? I should have been doing this, or I should have been talking to people in this space, but I wasn't yet. That a new creator would like to, that would benefit from knowing that.
I mean, definitely talk to people on Board Game Geek.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
like that's where, the Kickstarter community and the Board Game Geek community are very grossly overlapped, or not grossly, but just hugely overlapped. So yeah, they're going to go there to start asking questions. A lot of them do, because it's just an easier way to keep track of information.
There's a Board Game Geek designer forum that you may or may not have heard of, but it's where you can go and start talking about your development and post prototypes and things like that, and gain feedback long before you launch your campaign. And that begins to build your community, as well as your Facebook page, as well as your Twitter and Instagram accounts, which are all important for kind of seeding the market and building community. And you should make benchmarks for yourself and say, I'm not going to launch this campaign until I have 1,000 Facebook followers. And then, of course, once you have a little bit of a following and you're revealing all of your prototypes and some early artwork, they love that, they eat that up. Then make sure before you launch to give people access to your Kickstarter page, as I mentioned earlier. Oh, and also read Jamie Stegmeier's A Crowdfunder's Guide.
Yeah,
like the very first sentence in that book is, you don't have to launch tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's this innate sense of urgency that people have. They think, oh, it's time to market. I gotta launch. No, you don't. You can wait 6 months. You can wait a year. Make sure you're ready before you launch, because it could mean the difference between funding and not funding. And there are so many I's to dot and T's to cross before you launch. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Set your subscriptions on BGG, so that way you get a notification when somebody's talking about your game, so that you can ping in and say, hey, this is correct, or hey, that's not what we're doing. You're off there, and you can. It means a lot to the BGG users. And go ahead and just get used to it. It's $19.95 when you roll up on that page. I mean, it's cumbersome. You're like, wow, the AOL dial-up just queued up when I came on here, but it's worth, to Isaac's point, it's very much worth wading through and figuring out.
I think also like this is a little bit later from all of these steps, because these are all kind of like pre-campaign / during campaign, but like once you're post everything, another good one is Tabletop Simulator. I go in there and I play Secret Hitler with strangers like all the time, and I hear a lot of good feedback from there about like game balancing and like, well, obviously we're not going to change anything, but it's still nice to hear like what people think the game is really good at and what people think the game is less good at. And we also have a bunch of websites like secrethitler.io. That's like a fan-made website where people just play Secret Hitler all the time too, and I'll just go there. And it's great to just be like, hey, random people playing Secret Hitler, because you like it, what's up? Like, let's play this game. Like, and just kind of like infiltrate the community and have fun while you're doing it as well.
Yeah, definitely. Tabletop Simulator, which is Berserk Games.
Yeah, Berserk Games.
And then also a Russian company called Tabletopia, which is a browser-based platform, but now they also are on Steam as well, and Tabletop Simulator. And I was blown away by this development group from Russia that basically took all my assets and completely created this online 3D virtual tabletop game experience. And it turned out to be a pre-launch tool even. People will test your game virtually and then decide to buy it, both before and after the campaign. And it's a resource you should definitely tap into at some point. And I know it's a lot and it's kind of overwhelming, but definitely have that on your radar.
And if you're not doing a board game, if you're doing an RPG, I would highly suggest Ian World. So that's another resource.
So with everyone that you're speaking with, your campaign's finished, you're in that post-campaign period. How often, should you be communicating with people, whether it's updates, or do you have any guidance as far as what the right cadence is?
I think the cadence is different for every company.
Yeah, that really
I'm really bad on the back end, because I feel like if I don't have something very important to say, I don't want to just do it like I promised you every 2 weeks, so nothing's changed. Like, I only want to update when there's something, because at the end of the day, I only have so many hours in the day, and I'd rather be working on making the game than just giving you frivolous updates. But I think it is important to have some sort of framework to, like, I'm going to at least update you once a month on where we're at, or, and if we're in the heavy part of the production schedule, I'm going to have a couple of updates for you. But it is, when you're a super backer and you've backed a lot of games, your inbox becomes spam from Kickstarter. I've actually reached out to them to see if they can do something about consolidating all the updates that you get, especially on a Tuesday, on Kickstarter Tuesday. It's like, 4 games launch, and every follower that I have or that I follow, you just get bombarded. So, but yeah, I think it's going to be different for each game and each company and their brand.
When you first launch, and let's say it's your first Kickstarter, you want to be there, accessible to your fans, and you want to be the ones experiencing that. But at some point, you end up hiring a community manager. Like, I hired someone who, I paid $12.50. Jamie Stegmaier pays $15 an hour, but I paid $12.50 an hour. And she's great at social media, and she does all my Facebook, all my Twitter, all my Instagram, and she's even like responding to emails on Board Game Geek now. And it frees me up to do other things like business development or localization partnerships with foreign publishers that want to translate your game into their language. And there's just always something to do. And early on, you're going to get bogged down and overwhelmed with answering messages and updates. And it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and you kind of just briefly check, and you're like, I got like 12 unanswered messages. And if you don't keep up, 3 days go by and you have 50, and you're like, oh man, and then your brand starts to suffer because people start to talk, oh well, they're not very responsive, right? And you're thinking, I'm just one person. So that's why at some point it's probably good to farm that out a little bit and delegate.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a different perspective than James in the sense that I feel like even if you're just writing that small email that says like, nothing's going on.
Right.
I've gotten like so much positive feedback about that. It's like, oh, just thanks for letting us know that nothing's going on. Like,
I'm probably interjecting too much of my own personal preference there on that, because you're definitely right, because I'll get sometimes like, hey, we haven't heard from you in 32 days. You said we were going to get once a month. I'm like, oh, sorry.
It really depends on also like just how many backers you have. When there's lots and lots, then there's a lot more people that you have to reach, and so it's kind of like, I don't want to spam you, but like here's this email, and so you kind of just have to like suss it out, basically, just based on what's going on with the campaign. I don't think there's like a pattern or a rubric that we can make right now for how many you should send out based on how many. I don't think that's a thing. I think you just have to like learn your community and know your community, and then make that choice after having done that.
Well, then, looking again kind of from the eyes of someone who's starting their first game, building up the community, is there any advice you have for someone who hasn't found their community yet and is looking to be able to, to better engage and to have that going forward?
Like keep looking. Just look all the time.
Well,
you'll find
it's supposed to know what your passion is too, right? Like, where are you?
Yeah, right.
And what are you doing there? So, like, find somebody else that you admire and find out what they're doing, and go see where they're posting or how they're doing it. Or you've got to be authentic, right? Because they will know if you're not. And so you've got, if you're not a social media person, perhaps hire somebody, right? Because that's it's critical to the overall success of your brand.
I'm trying to think of that. What's that? The thing where you put it's got like lots of like pinholes in it, and then you put like a marble, and it's like
like a pinhole?
No. It's like got like pegs in it, and then you put the thing, and it's like. I feel like that's how I feel when I'm like looking for the community. I'm like, where are we going?
Yeah.
Like it's just this constant like looking like everywhere you could possibly look, and like no place is left untapped type of, and you have to be willing and free to adapt and move to whatever place ends up getting like naturally pushed. Yeah. If that makes sense. It was kind of a weird metaphor.
But it's hard, right? Because this is
it works. Okay.
With Trogdor, I mean, I've been a fan for years, right? You didn't have to. I was already there. I was a backer, right? So, and because it's Monte games and Monte's had, so it's not fair, right? I can't really give you that advice because it's hard to say, just make a name for yourself, right? Like, how do you do that, right? You make really good stuff, right? And you're really passionate about it, and you find two people who really like what you've done, and you tell them, right? And then they're on social media, and they're talking, and you've got to find those people who will go out and be that army for you. I'm not joking. Those are the people who I adore. Two of them are in this room. They will be those people that will help you with your Kickstarter messaging, and they will spread the news of like if you have that important message, you need everybody to get out, and they're not going to read the update. So those. If you start small, but start someplace.
And keep going.
You
Be
don't
consistent.
have to.
And don't give up. Like
right.
if you look in a place and you didn't find them, then that doesn't mean you didn't find them. It just means you didn't find them there. So now you need to go somewhere else. You can't. If you hit a wall, it's not a wall that goes around the entire earth that you cannot cross. It's just a wall maybe in that one spot. So go around it and go somewhere else to another path. Yeah.
Can I talk now?
Yeah, you can talk. Sorry.
I have two specific suggestions. One is something called Unpub. They have events scattered throughout the U.S. where they specifically have events, typically at a gaming shop, where you go and you can have other people play test your unpublished game. That's the one way to get some exposure. There's another one at Gen Con called First Exposure Playtest Hall, right? You definitely should be a part of that. You're demoing your prototype to other people, and that's the first exposure that people are getting. And then, of course, what I mentioned earlier, the Board Game Geek, a designer forum. That's how you can begin to build community. And then I was lucky because I'm a professor and I had an audience of 250 students in my lecture. And so I would have them go to my Facebook page and say, everybody simultaneously like my page. So I was able to like once I did that for 3 semesters, I mean, right there, I had 600 followers. But I don't know. That's probably only works for me.
That's awesome. Is everybody here wanting to do a Kickstarter? Is that why primarily everybody's here?
The other thing I want to know is who's doing board games, and is anybody doing RPGs?
Or just like non-board games.
Yeah.
Video game? Okay. You guys have your prototypes and stuff here?
Mm-hmm.
I did not bring mine.
Okay.
Well, at Gen Con.
So one thing for sure I would say is don't, and I see this a lot of times from first-time creators, is you're trying to protect your design. You think somebody's going to steal it, and you're paranoid about it. Let it. I'm going to start singing. Let it go. It's no one's going to steal your design. There's 5,000 games that come out a year. Even if they did take your mechanic, it would look totally different once they made it into the game that they thought it would be. So it's totally fine to go into open gaming, get you one of those little $100 pop-up banners, pop that thing up, and start getting people to play your game. Let people pick it apart. You're going to need thick skin for this world that you're diving into. And it's good. Like, I have some of my best experiences. I took Jeremy, our next game is Tidal Blades, coming up in September. I took it to Jeremy. That's like his worker placement. Jeremy from Man vs. Meeple. He's gonna love it. He loves worker placement. He played it and he was like, James, that's one of the worst worker placement games I've ever played. It's terrible. It's broken. And you've worked on it for like 7 months. You're like,
I'm not broken.
you're shrinking and your face is burning. And you're like, you don't know what you're talking about. And then once you assimilate that information, you go back and you work on it some more. And the game is much better now because he ripped it apart for us. And so you're gonna get your game out and get it played. You can definitely build a community, especially if you've got something really unique. It's important for you guys to know that you're not entitled to fans. You have to make something that people want.
Right.
Like, you don't, just because you put a lot of work into it means nothing. We have to make something that people want to engage with and want to consume.
Also, foot traffic. You'd be amazed at how many people pass your little pop-up banner and see this prototype version at Gen Con being played and remember you 3 years later and go, oh yeah, I saw you 3 years ago at Gen Con. So you'd think, is it really worth my time, energy, and investment to do that? It is, because of all the foot traffic, and that begins to plant seeds in people's minds and develop your brand. Not everything is measurable with a metric of, oh, I have 800 Facebook followers, right? Sometimes people will see it, it plants a seed, and then later they'll remember it when it's time to make a decision on Kickstarter.
You got to be consistent. You got to knock on the door a lot. Like, it's take a picture of those prototypes and those play tests, right? Throw them up on Facebook. You might get 2 or 3 likes and 2 comments. You go, all that effort for 3 engagements, right? But keep doing it each month, and as you build. When I started the Board Game Spotlight, it's got 11,000 followers in it now. And it had like 25 for like 3 months. It would have been easy to go, well, no one cares about what we're doing here, so whatever. But you just have to kind of keep plugging away. And if you're passionate about it, or maybe you're not, maybe you need to have a little self-awareness. Maybe you're not as passionate about it as you think, right? I call it the Clark Griswold effect, right? You got the thing built up in your head, but the grind is not glorious. It's not glamorous. So you've got to kind of enjoy the grind of making things happen.
But I think you also touched on a key point, that there is a lot of merit to just making a great product. That itself can build you an audience, especially like if you get in the hands of reviewers who do really love the product.
Which obviously you did. Like, you killed it. I mean, you've made a game that it's totally defining and turned the corner and just went shot to the top. And
but even with my first project, Forge War, I mean, the entire success of that campaign was just based on Radar runs through a review of it. Like, I basically just stole his audience, which worked really well, and it was just based on.
Okay, this is a gold mine of information right here for you. So check this out. If you know, look, go to James Matthey, his website, right? Him and Jamie Stegmaier are like just a gold mine of information. But James Matthey has a section that will list all of the reviewers out there, the podcasters, vloggers, bloggers for games, right? And it'll tell you which ones accept prototypes for reviews. Not everyone wants to touch your prototype, but of the ones that do, know who they are, make a list and say, well, review my game. This is far before you launch, because if you can get some people talking about your game, especially reviewers, it can make the difference between succeeding and failing on Kickstarter. Because I posted a description of my game on Board Game Geek, talking about it and showing pictures, I was lucky because Richard Ham of Brado Runs Through started talking about my game, and it made his top 10 most anticipated games. And he said something I didn't even know he did. And someone said, "Hey, Mark, Brado talked about your game." I'm really? Well, he's got 50,000 subscribers to his channel, so that was, sometimes you can get a little bit lucky too. Yeah. But I'm not sure if Man vs. Meeple accepts prototypes anymore. They used to. I don't know if you do these days, but it's listed, and you should seek those people out and get them talking about your stuff.
And that actually, brings up an interesting thing. Does anyone else have any advice, as far as how some of these other groups have engaged with reviewers, what you found useful?
Don't pay for your reviews.
Yeah.
It's not a review if you pay for it. It's there's bias there, and they are taking advantage of you by taking your money. So.
What about buying a copy of your game?
Oh yeah, no, I mean sure, yeah. A copy of the game is not a payment. Typically, yeah, you don't want to make them pay for it.
Yeah, it's like what's it called?
Yeah, I say there's a big difference between a review and a preview. And so I don't know anybody that takes money for reviews, but I do know there are quite a few services that need to be paid to get on their schedule for a preview. It's a lot of work.
I think the verdict is out. I disagree a little bit with you on that, because some reviewers charge such a nominal fee, $300, $400, just because that's their time and equipment cost, and and some reviewers that have adopted a philosophy of, I will look at your game, if I like it and I truly like it, I'll review it and accept a fee. And others say, if I don't, I'm not going to take any money for you, right? So you'll have to be the judge of whether or not that's authentic, or if that's not separation of church and state there. But but there's a lot of opinions about that out there. And some people, the only way some reviewers with all their expensive equipment, the only way they can keep the lights on is to say, hey, how about $300, $400? And sometimes it's worth it, in my opinion. So everyone's different. Eddie Azzato of GamerNode absolutely would never take any money, but other people would.
And I think it's more of an influencer. I think our industry is shifting to influencers who have an audience and subscription base and whatever, and because there's 3,500 games a year that are coming out, you almost have to pay to get on the schedule, right? To there's so many options, and so there are the Rados and the Shut Up and Sit Downs that they have their Patreon and their Kickstarter, and they never want to take money from companies because they don't want to behold to anyone, and they want to be able to say a game's a dumpster fire if they want to be able to say that. And that's totally fine, because there is bias. If you pay someone to preview your game, you don't expect them to go, this game was total garbage. That's not very helpful, right? And so that kind of goes back to what Mark was saying, is that system has kind of prevailed, as if they want to check the game out first, make sure that they do like it and they do have some positive things to say about your game, and then they'll put you on the schedule. So it is a kind of a gray area, but you definitely have to pay for some marketing, right? You definitely have to pay to get your name out there and your project out there, even if it's just, I'm going to post some stuff on Facebook and pay for Facebook ads or other things. There's lots of other ways to do it too.
Most reviewers will say before the video runs, paid review.
They should. 100% they should be saying that. It's FDC, FDI, whatever you want to call it. FBI. It's the law. They are supposed to, if they take payment, they're supposed to say it's paid content.
Yeah. And if you're talking RPGs, I would say that what we do is as soon as we get the product in house, we're sending it out to reviewers that we know, because we want the word on the street. We want people, because it takes a while. When you're talking about an RPG, you're not talking about opening it up and reading like a rule book. You're talking about reading, maybe 256 pages, and so it takes a while for that information to get out there. So you want to have it in the hands of reviewers as soon as you can.
And there are plenty of reviewers that don't charge anything. And just because they only have 300 or 400 or 500 subscribers, that's fine. That's totally fine. Just, I mean, as long as people are commenting and liking and engaging with their posts somewhat, right? I mean, it's fine. It's totally fine. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be Man vs. Meeple or Tom at Dice Tower. There are other options. So.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah. If you want to pay somebody for like a preview, just to like get it out to their fans, that's great. But I think there should always be reviews on your page, and yeah, those don't necessarily have to be from like the big name people. It could be from just that guy with his camcorder who just wants to break into his industry.
Sure, absolutely.
And so he's gonna just start doing Kickstarter reviews because that's the only people who will pay attention to him. And yeah, getting a review from him, if he loves it, is great because that's somebody that you haven't paid, that you're not affiliated with, who loves your game and is making a video about it. That's great.
And if you're here to Gen Con, just whip out your phone and take some fan reactions after they play a prototype, right?
Yeah.
Like grab those and talk to people and say, and then you can go home and if you can't edit it up, you can cut that down and make it nice and concise so you have a 30-second clip of 10 people saying, this game doesn't suck.
Awesome. Well, we are almost out of time here, so I just wanted to ask one last question. As far as being at Gen Con, is there any like favorite designer or someone like if you recommended people to go to one booth today or visit one person today? Is there anyone that you would recommend as like this is who you should go stop by?
It takes a lot of
Unpaid reviews only.
all of
I've always been a fan of Ryan of Red Raven Games. He made Above and Below and Near and Far and other prepositions, I guess.
I was gonna see their stuff because this is an all-star team up here crushing it. Like Marc's game is one of my favorite from the year. Obviously, I'm putting your game in last year, okay? Because I had the first run, but Feudum is again. It was going back to that previous point of Marc has made something that didn't exist. Like it's really a standout product that once it's a beast to get on under. It's a learning process, but one is so worth it. And that economy system that he's got set up, it's just I love it. Love it.
Thank you.
I haven't gotten around much, but I'm right next to Restoration Games, and they're fabulous. They're doing and they got a penny press machine now, so you should definitely go by and check that out. You can get like little pennies that have been stamped with Fireball Island.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it's just 50 cents.
That's where I'm going.
Cranks it, you get to do.
And I heard they have an announcement this week. What was this? What was this announcement? What's coming back now?
Yes, they're doing Dark Tower.
Return to the Dark Tower, huh?
Dark Tower, and they got
who's working on that?
Some guest designer.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so
you've probably been in your campaign.
I'm working with Restoration, so maybe that is a paid review because they are paying me.
Ouch.
So I'm working with Restoration to do Dark Tower. It's coming out in a couple of years. But also they have Dinosaur Tea Party, which is like the greatest theme ever. It's like this little party game. And, I mean, dinosaurs. Can't say no to dinosaurs.
Let me talk to you about my next game. Just kidding.
I was not. That was him. I wasn't gonna bring it up.
Well, before I tell you the recommendation, I wanted to say one last thing. I apologize. It's just I think it's super important, especially if you're new, to have a mentor. And if you don't have that, I would highly recommend developing that relationship. So find a company you love, find somebody who has a philosophy that you love, and try to develop a relationship with them, because you will get this on a daily basis, right? You will be able to reach out to them, and they will be able to guide you through a lot of the process. Yep. So a mentor, I think, is really, highly recommend. Now, this is a game that I just found out about yesterday, okay? It's the company, or the game line is called Tiny Epic Games. Mm-hmm. Okay, holy cats, wow. Okay, so like I had never seen this. This is so cute. So it's called Gameland Games. I wrote it down because I don't have a very good memory. So Gameland Games, Michael Coe is the CEO. Tiny Epic Games, like they make the cutest little games. Josh Ziegler, one of our asset team members, one of our people who are out there kind of like being our army for us, showed me this game, and I was like, I'm gonna go buy everything they have. So that's what I would say, go find them.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone. I think we are out of time now, so I really appreciate, like you said, everyone coming. Thank you. I hope everyone learned a lot.
Yeah.